Welcome, viewers, to another chapter of Divorce Chronicles, candid conversation on starting over, finding the wisdom, gift, strength, and resilience after divorce. Today, our guest is Hall. He's from The Game Changer. He is a business coach and men's coach. You will be able to get hold of him at www.thegamechanger.com. .com.au, www.thegamechanger.au. I got it right this time.
Yeah, bingo.
Thank you. All right. So, Steve, we are interested to know a little bit more about your divorce and what led to it.
Yeah, well, boy, it's nice to talk about it, Rebecca, now without being emotionally connected to it like I used to be, because a long time ago, I needed to talk about it a lot. But it was really difficult finding other people to talk to about it because I think my divorce was not what you would call run of the mill. My wife got mentally ill, and we didn't know it was mental illness at the time. It began slowly and crept into our lives, and it would present as an argument, for example, and then everything would go quiet and back to normal for a few months. But that regularity became more and more consistent and closer together as time went on. And then the whole family was thrown into the midst of things that didn't make sense. Mm-hmm. And then things got really hard, and a lot of things were being accused of the family by my ex, and that weren't true. But all that chaos, without knowing it was mental illness at the time, it just didn't make sense, and it was quite crazy. So it wasn't a case of us growing apart or one of us having an affair or anything like that. It was mental illness blew what was a comfortable, happy, probably complacent family apart. So that's what led to it. And that's why I think afterwards, in the aftermath, I found it very difficult to find anyone who would like to talk to me about it, because people didn't know what to say, how to approach it, especially when mental illness was concerned.
Yeah.
And my wife had been, loved by everybody in the whole family and embraced. So afterwards, no one sort of knew what to say or how to approach it. So yeah, I was left to ponder it all in my own head, and it was driving me crazy for years. And but it's led to where I am now, and I'm sure through the course of our conversation I'll be able to share more about that with you.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing. So how long was that period lasting for, and why in the beginning were you putting up, and then what led to that decision that this is enough?
Yeah, well, that's a big question in itself. It happened. It's really hard to pick a time when you say this happened now. When we married, up until probably 4 years before it ended, my ex had always been highly strung or unable to relax. She was a powerhouse. I used to joke that she was nuclear powered, because she'd just forever be whizzing around the house doing whatever she could. And we had have four daughters. So having a large family, well, four is large in my book, took a bit of doing, and I always used to try and get her to just relax. You've been working hard, just relax. But she'd work up until, time to go to bed, and she'd be up early and still she seemed to enjoy it, but, it didn't seem good for her. So we started going to counselors to try and see, get underneath what was going wrong, and see if we could find help for her, to help her just switch off and relax sometimes. But she never was able to. We kept going to counselors for quite a while, but they didn't work. So in the end, we just gave up and put up with the fact that she wasn't relaxing. But then slowly, like I said, arguments started creeping in where everything would be fine. All of a sudden, something would erupt, in an argument. You find yourself in the middle of a drama, and you didn't know how it started or where it was going, but you're arguing about things. And then all of a sudden the next day, it was like a storm had passed the night before, and you wake up to a sunny morning. Everything's calm, and it's hard to believe that there was anything wrong. And back then I was very complacent or naive as well. I preferred to have everything the status quo. I didn't like drama. So when everything went back to normal, I just breathed a sigh of relief, and I didn't want to revisit problem from the day before, because it was like, whew, that's past. Let's just get on with being normal again. But like I said, the pattern developed. It was every 3 months, and then it was every 2 months, and then it was every month, and then there were some triggers that just made it. So I during that time, I started working away a lot, because with four daughters, one thing my wife had always been adamant about was, we'll have a family, but I want to be a stay-at-home mum. I want to be there for the kids when they get home from school. I don't want to be working. I think it's really important that they get that. And so I was working as much as I could to keep the money up. And so I got a promotion, but that meant working away a lot during the week, but at least I was home on weekends. So when all that was happening, that was when the problem started to become more apparent. My wife was saying that the children were being disobedient while I was away, increasingly disobedient. And she would have me talk to them when I got home on the weekends, and I was meant to chastise the girls and tell them to do what their mother says and all this sort of thing. And I did for a long time. And it was well, I couldn't tell you exactly when it was, but there was a time when like weird things started happening. And one of those times was I could hear a commotion in the passage of the house. So I walked to the door of the room that I was in, looked down the passage, and I could see my wife and my second eldest daughter standing opposite each other. And then all of a sudden, my wife let out a wail and fell down on the ground. Which was really weird. I didn't know what was going on. But then she got up, and then she looked up and saw me there, and she pointed at my daughter, or our daughter, and she said, "She hit me. She struck me to the ground. Do something about it." And I said, she didn't know that I'd seen the whole thing, I don't think. And I said, "No, she didn't. She didn't hit you to the ground. I saw exactly what happened." And I said, "I'm starting to believe that the things that you're accusing the girls of are not true." And from that moment on, I became her target instead of the girls. And then I felt what the girls had been putting up with, but it got really bad. And that was when, or a little bit more to that, she started calling the police on me, saying that I was abusing her physically, emotionally, and all different sorts of things. And once the police turned up, and my wife was in tears and told them that I had struck her to the ground, and the police came into the room to talk to me about it and said, "What's going on here?" And I said, "Nothing. And I didn't do anything." And even now, as I say it to you, I realize how lame it sounds. If there's someone crying in the kitchen and the other person in the other room says nothing happened, I'm going to believe the person who reported the event and is in tears, right? And that's what the police did. And they threatened to remove me from the house. And I thought, geez, this is getting real. And I felt really vulnerable. And like, sooner or later, it's going to get worse, because it's continually getting worse. And I don't want to be around for when she accuses me of something even worse again. We'd bought the house next door, and the tenants had moved out, so I moved in there while I could put some space between us, and that was the beginning of the end. Because it just got worse. She kept ringing the police and claiming more and more and more. So that was a defining moment, and that was when I think, Rebecca, that the magic thread of love finally snapped. Because I was married forever. In my mind, that was going to be forever. I had a religious upbringing, background, I was trying to say. And I believed that once I'd made that vow, it was forever. It was taken for granted. And I remember being what I call now a divorce snob, because I believed that people who got divorced were just people who didn't try hard enough to make a marriage work. And so this was probably the beginning of my awakening into, sometimes divorce is not a good thing, but sometimes it's a necessary thing. And it was the beginning of my own journey, finding out about who I was and what I really believed, because I had even more to go through. This was just the beginning of my own journey, really.
Yeah. And I would like to know more about what you felt through those years, or that period. I don't know how long that period was, and how the relationship with your daughters ended up? Was it good? Was it bad? Was it stressful? And generally, what does a man feel when he is going through that specific scenarios or period?
Yeah. Well, like I said, the reasons why I was divorced and in the position I was is probably different to a lot that you might talk to, I would imagine. But I have talked to men who have had similar things happen. And how it felt was, yeah, look, the girls suffered just as much as I, because their mum two of them ended up leaving during that period of time and going to university and self-funding themselves. So thank goodness for that. But the two youngest ones were left at home, and one of them was going through her own identity, figuring out who she was. But that meant that she would challenge her mum from time to time, and her mum wouldn't stand for that in the mindset that she'd gotten into. So she really crushed her and broke her to bits. And the two youngest daughters have still got mental health issues they're dealing with today, still recovering from. They've come a long, long way, but they went through hell. Now, their relationship and I probably became even stronger than before. And I thought it was pretty strong before, but we depended and relied on each other. During the whole breakup and separation, took me a couple of years to get divorced because I should have been bankrupt, but I didn't declare it. So I just battled on from paycheck to paycheck because I lost everything. We went to the family court. My wife had tearfully and recounted all her accusations against me. And she was a pillar of the community before she got mentally ill. So she had a lot of references from like the town doctor and the principal of the high school and a whole raft of people saying that she's the best mother since Mother Teresa, sort of thing. And so I had, in the absence of evidence from me to say, no, she's not, something's going on, look at what's going on, none of that was admissible. And so it was just her tearful accounts and these references read out, and she was awarded everything. So I was left with nothing else but a job. Like no home, no furniture, no car, nothing. And she was given all that because she was looking after our two youngest daughters. The only thing I'd managed to succeed in was to get the daughters the ability to go stay with me or their mother at their wish, whoever that they wish to, rather than the court say, you're only allowed to see me once every fortnight or something like that. So I had that, and I was hoping that the girls would come and live with me. But at the same time, the career I was in went through a restructure. I'd found myself in an acting manager's role, and I had to sack 25 men, or redundant. Sack is a strong word, but redundant them. They were men like me who had families, and I left myself without a job as well. And so I had to find another job, and luckily I found another one with the company I was working with, but it was hundreds of kilometres away. And I wanted the girls to come and live with me, but they wouldn't. They saw their friends at the town that they'd grown up in as their link, everything they knew. They didn't want to go to a new school. Moving with me was scary. I had no money. So they chose to stay where they were, thinking that mum could do whatever she wants. They'll be fine on their own. Like by this age, they were probably, the youngest was 11. She was about 10 when it first started. So she was about 11 or 12, and they believed in themselves, but they didn't know what they were in for. But the relationship between me and them got even stronger. I kept coming to see them once a fortnight, like I was trying to avoid, but that happened. But at least they had to say. And in the end, their mum kicked them out anyway. And so I managed to rent a house for the eldest one, who was going through VCE a little bit later on. And I looked after the youngest one with me, but I didn't have anything. Like the court had left me with nothing because she was meant to be looked after by the mum, but I ended up looking after both of them when they'd been through school and into their young adult life. So we've been through a lot together. So I think we've become very close, but none of it was fair. None of it was worked out, taking into, like when their mum said, no, I'm not looking after them anymore, and told them to leave. The court doesn't give me the house because now I'm looking after the kids. So none of it was given back. It was all gone. So I really felt like I'd been let down by the law. And having a religious upbringing, I was very I think one of my biggest faults was I was very loyal to what I'd been taught to believe. And I thought the law was a representation of God's authority on earth and all this sort of stuff. So when they gave it all away, it was sort of like they were punishing me, and like it was sort of like everything was pointing a finger at me, saying I'm not worthy, I'm a failure. I felt like a failure because my kids were in trouble and I couldn't rescue them. I felt like a failure sacking those people at work. I felt like a failure just having no money after 30 years of working hard. And there was no fairness. So I just got to say, what some men go through during divorce is heartbreaking. I know women go through heartbreaking times as well, but I see an imbalance at the moment. I work with a lot of men here in Geelong, and a lot of going through breakups. A lot of them don't have the skills that I've learned through my journey, and they're finding it really hard. And similar things crop up. They get left with nothing just because they're the man, and their heart breaks just as much like a woman's. So, I don't know what can be done about that.
Yeah, and probably the support that men need is not there. Like for women as well, the support that they need it's not up to the mark. They need more support, but I think for men it's even less. Would you agree, or is it?
When I was going through it, I felt just when I thought I reached rock bottom, I was always managed to find a new rock. I go even deeper. And I was struggling. Like I was traumatized through it. I remember just being in a daze for years and just putting one foot in front of the other. And so when I'd find myself waiting in the family court or wherever, there'd be walls of pamphlets, like self-help pamphlets. So while I was waiting for lawyers or hearings or whatever, I'd flick through them. I was always searching for one for men, like a men's helpline or something. There were heaps and heaps and heaps for disadvantaged groups. A lot of them were for women who were suffering family violence. There was a lot for alcoholism, a lot for all these sorts of things, but not one could I ever find through the years I was there for men. Till towards the end. Then I found one at the very end. And I thought, wow, look at this, a men's helpline pamphlet. I picked it up and I opened it up and it said, if you're a man and you're feeling angry or violent, ring this number. And it was basically dob yourself in. Ring this number. And I thought, like, this is crap. It was just bullshit. If any men were, sorry for my language, if any men were angry or feeling violent, it would be because of the injustice and lack of a voice and understanding that they're getting. There really needs to be a men's support group that encourages men to come in, gives them support, tells them more about what's going on, that the accusations are only accusations in a family court. They're not, you're not on trial in a magistrate's court or something. They're just accusations. They're made far too easily, and tell men their rights. And then someone would be able to help them through if they are feeling like angry or they have been involved in domestic violence. There's a good chance for them to see that and help them at the time, and give lots of different sorts of help. So, I
think it's high time that
there was nothing there, Rebecca, nothing. And to my knowledge, there still is nothing.
Still nothing. And then men are always pointed at, and they are the perpetrators all the time. It's not necessary, but the society and the law, that's how they see men.
Well, what I see is women are very well organized. You communicate a lot better than we men do, because that's you network super well. And give credit to everything that the women's movement have done up to date. I don't want to undo any of that or whatever, but they get millions of dollars in support, and nothing again is being given by the government over the last year towards men's group. It's sort of like they're trying to find favor with disadvantaged groups, and the women's group has a voice, a strong voice, because they're very well organized, and so they get a lot of that budget. Hopefully to buy votes. But the men, we're so disorganized, and so I think it's in our DNA to be loners. When things are tough, we work harder, we exercise more, but we don't ask for help. We don't even know how to ask for help. And we don't know what help is out there. And to my understanding, there's no help out there anyway. So we just battle on, we dig down and we go deeper and more and deeper and deeper. And there's a lot of poor mental health issues develop in men as a result, some costing men their lives far too often. And it's just something that really needs to be addressed. We need to get that right, because kids growing up need mums and dads, not just mums, not just dads. They need both. So we need to look after everybody.
Yeah. And that brings me to the question, if the relationship is toxic. I know your relationship was a little bit different than the average divorce cases. What would you suggest someone who is going through a disrupted marriage, and then they are just sticking by, holding on to the marriage, saying excusing themselves or giving the excuse of because of my kids and because of my kids, but they are fighting verbally, they are abusing each other, or even physical violence? What do you think is first of all the impact on children, thinking the parents thinking if they stay together the children will be better off, and then what do you see the impact, and what would you suggest them?
I'll give you my opinion, okay? And it's my opinion, and it's shaped a lot by what I've been through, but what I've learned since what I've been through. And what I know as a coach is children don't do what we suggest they do. They never will do what you say, but they will always do what they see you do. If you're staying in an unhappy, toxic relationship for the sake of the kids, you think you can't afford to leave, or it's better for them, and all these reasons and excuses that you come through your mind to stop you from, standing up for you, you're really just giving them the example that marriage is like this. This is what you've got to sacrifice. You've got to live in an unhappy relationship. There's meant to be sniping and lack of love in that's just normal. And they'll grow up and that's what their relationships will be like, almost guaranteed. You've got to show them that it's okay. Sometimes it's okay to separate and be friendly with each other. With partners can be friendly if they separate, and not to use the kids as hostages or tools to get back at each other. But if they are considering the kids at all, I would say separate, learn who you are, because I think marriage ultimately tests that. And that's probably what's going on, is we get attracted to someone that we believe we deserve in the very beginning. And when we first get married, we can be quite young. I was. And so I attracted what I believed I deserved. I didn't know subconsciously that's what I was doing. But later on in life, the things that my ex started doing was challenging me. And I guess it was challenging me, forcing me to have an opinion, because like I said, I was just leaning on my beliefs, what I'd been trained and taught to believe from my childhood. The first 10 years, that's what's happened. And then we set about the rest of our life trying to prove our beliefs true.
That's right.
And so I think this was challenging me and forcing me to have an opinion, have a say, take control of my life, because I was being a typical victim, believing it wasn't my fault, it's unfair. And I was just wallowing in my own pity, really, which I hated, but that's all I had left. So I would say stand up, shake yourself off, have a look at yourself in the mirror and learn who you are. And if your partner isn't loving you, well, maybe it's because you haven't learned how to love yourself yet. So I'd say that's where you need to start. Use it as a positive and go, what's this situation I'm in telling me? Leave, separate, find out who you are, and then you'll find out if you can recover the marriage after that. At the same time, you'll show your children that parents can separate, can still be friends, and that's better than living in a loveless relationship where you wish you weren't. You're just leaving a bad example behind. So my opinion or advice would be move until you can feel that you can represent yourself positively while you're in the presence of your ex-partner, and you can decide whether you want to get back and fix it after you've found out who you are. But I'd say a divorce, if anything, is a really good opportunity to find out who you are.
Well, I believe divorce, God has in Muslim scripture, God has given divorce as a blessing, as a rescue, as a leeway from this toxic drama. So I believe myself, divorce is a blessing, and when needed, we should really opt in.
Yeah, that sounds very healthy to me. It
Yeah.
should be on the table as an option, not something that you'll feel shame about or be penalized for.
Yeah,
I
and
like that.
interestingly, God the Creator, He also mentions to amicably separate, like how now we say
Mm.
decoupling and bringing up the children together and
With respect.
with respect. So God says all those things with respect, amicably separate, rather than being very mean to each other. And
Mm.
there are a few other things which is I find really comforting. Or the other thing, what we see in the Western world, is men having to give away almost all his earnings and all his savings. And even I think in America, they keep giving alimony until the lady, the ex-wife, finds another husband.
Mm.
Whereas in Islam, it's for the husband looks after her for 1 year, and that's it. And if they have children together, he pays for the children's cost. So
I
I
still
think that,
wonder in nowadays, Rebecca, where with equality in Australia,
yeah.
what it is, why women would need to be looked after by a man at all. If they're most likely working in today's families, that both people work.
Yeah,
If
so
anything,
that's another.
maybe the pay needs to be equal or something like that. But for them to judge that a man has to continue to financially support the wife, but not the other way around, doesn't seem fair to me again. So it sounds
Yeah,
like
so that goes into another issue of,
yeah.
you know, women can work. It's their choice. It's not their liability that they have to work and look after themselves. It's the husband's or the father's or the son's duty to look after her, and her money is her money. And then, the male member of the family looks after her. But then if she is earning enough, why would she be a burden to the husband? So those moral questions come in now. Like one is for stability of the society, and then the other is now these powerful women are taking advantage of the men who are just getting by. And then, is that justice?
Yeah.
Is that being amicable? Is that being respectful? Is that not
Well,
vindictive?
again, it's
All
more
those things.
as in the beginning when you think love is a declaration of, marriage is a declaration of love. Two
Yeah,
people come together. Isn't it funny how all these other aspects get stuck to it? The
of
legal
course.
issue, the
Yeah,
financial issues.
of
In
course.
my wife's case, I think I shared that in the beginning she wanted to be a stay-at-home mum, and it was one point that was just quite adamant on never to work, to be there for the kids. But the kids cost a lot of money, and so did everything we all wanted in the family. But no matter how broke we got, it just meant I had to work harder and harder and longer to put more money on the table. And then when we went through the court, she argued that I had deliberately suppressed her chance to earn an income or to get an education, to earn anything. And so I hired her. And honestly, I lost everything, absolutely everything. And for someone like me, I needed security in my life. It's my energy type. I need security, like the house and the family were my security. And she took those away from me, and with the blessings of the law of the land. And it was just so wrong. But look, I'm happy now.
Yeah.
So this is not sour grapes, but it is what it is. And I got to say it how it was. It still left a bad taste in my mouth. I lost a lot of respect for the law as a result. And but at the same time, I found a lot of respect for myself. I've learned how to figure out what I believe and how to stand up for it now.
That's beautiful. What a great gift that is.
I think so.
Yeah. So with the social stigma, was there any social stigma related to men divorcing or not carrying on the marriage? Doesn't matter what you're going through. Did you come across that whatever happened?
When you first started saying about stigma, my mind went in a different direction, because there was a lot of stigma. Got to remember that we were living in a small country town. We moved there deliberately because we wanted that whole small country town appeal. was a beautiful little place, and the people there were marvelous, the townspeople. But when this started going on, like I said, it wasn't rational, it was crazy. And there were a lot of rumors being spread from my ex about myself and our children. So around town, the rumors about me were that I was having affairs every time I was working away with many, many women. And I was abusing her physically when I would get home. I was abusing her financially, controlling her. Also, probably another straw that broke the camel's back was she had spread around town that I was having an incestuous relationship with one of our daughters. These sort of things are terrible. But the stigma that followed me around that town was, I thought sooner or later someone is going to ask me what's going on, and no one did. People started crossing the road when they saw me walking down the street rather than bump into me. Yeah. And then I realized that I was being shunned. And so everyone in the town believed the rumors that were going around without ever checking. So the stigma was there. Not that I was getting divorced, not that we were having marriage trouble. The stigma was about the untrue rumors. So that too really hurt. Yeah.
Of course. And that probably have made you felt even more lonely. First of all, you don't have the
absolutely.
And now everybody is misunderstanding you, and you cannot let your emotions out. And most men do not even know how to connect to their emotions and let it out. So,
do you know, during that time, I think I mentioned that I ended up traumatized, and I remember being like a zombie, just mind fog. It was foggy every day, but just putting one step in front of the other day after day. And it was because I can't remember where I was going with that. Can't remember where I was heading. I didn't know how to. Could you just tell me what you were saying just before I started going down that tangent? Might bring me back online.
All right. So I think I asked that men even don't know how to express their emotion, and there was no support system at all.
Got it.
Everybody
thank you.
Yes.
During that time, I was being a zombie with the mind fog. That's where I went off track. I was sitting in I had a tiny little flat in a town called Warrnambool, and I was watching the TV, and I can't remember what show it was, but it was a comedy on while I was making dinner, and I sat down and I ate my dinner in front of the TV. And after I'd eaten it, the show finished, and I thought, even TV is crap nowadays. Like, that was meant to be a comedy, and I didn't laugh once, right? And then I started wondering, what was the last show I remember that I've laughed at that I liked? And I couldn't remember a time that I'd laughed. And I thought, hang on. Then it hit me like a ton of bricks. I had forgotten how to laugh. I couldn't remember a time, because by this stage, when I was in Warrnambool, it was now a couple of years, that I hadn't laughed. And so I started panicking, and I went out to the video shop and I started hiring videos. And then I got some online through the mail, all comedies. So I'd sit there and I'd watch them, and I'd see that they were meant to be funny, and some of them actually were, but still nothing. And so I had to start fake laughing and teaching myself to laugh again. And it was really bizarre. And then a few months after that, once I started allowing myself to laugh and finding things funny and forcing myself to start, I started lightening up a bit. But I remember a couple of months after that I was sitting down again having dinner, and the cartoon, The Simpsons, came on, and there was some song or something they played in there. I don't know what it was. I can't remember it. Don't normally watch them, but I started crying over a cartoon, and I thought, wow, a few months ago I couldn't laugh, and now I'm crying at a cartoon show. So the emotional toll it had on me was immense. I remember going years after that feeling like I had no personality. It left me really flat. I had no identity, no belief in myself. So it took a massive toll. If I hadn't had kids to look after, I wouldn't have had anything to live for.
And no wonder why many men these days are choosing that path.
Absolutely. I can understand, I think, where they would be when they make the worst decision at all at the worst time of their life. Yeah.
And that brings us back to the support system. What sort of support system would you like to see, and have around men also initiatives from the government.
We need a men's crisis centre. We need people, they're professionals who can be asked for advice and to be refer men to different areas where they need to go. There's nothing. There's not a helpline. There's not a help centre. There's nothing. So any support would be a step in the right direction. I don't know what the answer is, but when I see look, I'm glad to be Australian and live in this country because I see that disadvantaged people are looked after. And divorced women or abused women are part of that. I'm glad to see that. But I'm ashamed to see that there's nothing there for men.
For men.
We need to start balancing the scales there. I don't know what it would look like, but anything would be a step in the right direction. Even a flipping 1-800 helpline would be a start. All we've got for men is Lifeline.
Well, you have started the men's coaching. You are helping men, and we are collaborating as well, hopefully. I do also work with men who are going through these challenges and also who have already divorced, men and women, and I do have special men's only as well. So there are people who are waking up and trying to do whatever they can, but I think a lot more awareness is needed at this point, and we need to talk about it more. And
well, I love what you're doing, Rebecca, opening this up to be talked about. The conversation is starting. So I think that's where we need to be.
That's right.
And the next step, I think, is men need to learn how to connect together and stop not knowing how to ask for help and stop not knowing who to talk to or how to start a conversation. We need to take a leaf out of our sister's book and learn how to connect and just open up and share.
The problem, what I see is because men have been taught for so many years, especially their young age, not to express their emotion, and they've been cut off when they expressed too much or they cried and they were not being men. Don't cry like a baby or don't cry like a girl. So they now don't know how to express their emotion, how to ask for help, how to open up. So that is what we are seeing right now, that what we have done, how we have parented is now having an effect.
I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I don't think it's just what we're taught. I think it's in our DNA. Men naturally gravitate towards this way without being taught it. So I think we need to understand, what do we expect a man to be in the 21st century? What do we expect of them? Who do we want them to be? Because if we try and make us like women so that we cope better, I'm just imagining an armed forces, for example, trying to defend the country, going, oh, I'm a bit emotionally upset about this. I need someone to talk to before I go to war or something. We train them to override their emotions, to have a focus. And so what do we want? What do we expect of men going forwards, and how would we do it? But I think to start, we need to let them talk about what they're feeling, share it, because I think that will open the lid more than trying to fix it for them without their input.
For sure. But when you said that, that reminds me of, and I'll go back to my traditions, is Muslims believe in the last Prophet Muhammad, and when he was a kind, if you read his biography, you'll see he's been mentioned as he was kind, gentle, like all the nurturing, all the feminine energy qualities there. And at the same time, when he needed to fight for right and fight for against oppression, he didn't hesitate. He led the army. So the masculine energy was also there, and at that time he didn't start weeping and crying or allowed other men to weep and cry. And if somebody came and said, hey, I don't want to go because they're just giving excuse because they don't want to get involved in fighting, which takes courage, and he wouldn't force. He would say that's okay, because he knew that if this man comes join the fight, he's going to be more a liability than powerful for them. So he had those emotional intelligence. He had how to he knew how to connect to his emotions and express his emotion, at the same time have the masculinity as well. And that also reminds me, during 1971, when my country had a fight, had to fight against Pakistanis for language, the fight of the language or war of the language or something. And now because of that, we have International Language Day. Interesting. We had this song to empower men, and the writers, the poets, they at that time would write really powerful poems and poetries, to charge up the men to go to battle. And then I remember there is this song, and I always loved it, that would translate like this: "Oh mother, we are peace-loving, peaceful men or boys of yours or children of yours, but we know how to protest and how to hold like arm when needed." So I think it's always the balance of the feminine energy and the masculine energy, both in men and women, which would bring the best out of us.
I think you make a good point, and you've probably got me thinking that other nationalities, when I'm talking, I'm looking at it from an Australian point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And other nationalities men do express themselves and their emotions quite differently to the way we do. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. So yeah, we could learn a lot from that. It's not all about just learning how to express emotions, is it? That's why I think it's deeper. I think it's more who are we. But one thing's for sure, that would be one solution. And the other that I'm playing with at the moment is helping people understand or remember who they are and where they come from. When we realize that we are all, from whatever you want to call it, God, the source, or whatever, and we've all got that in us, if we can get over needing to go to war full stop, that would be a much better step, I think. But I think we need to settle that we need to open up the discussion with men about what are they facing and what would they like, and someone needs to organize them. Maybe we need a mum of the nation to take over and get organizers, but we definitely need to become organized and start talking and connecting
more about this. Growing up, I saw, which I don't see it anymore, that men would like hug each other, like kiss each other on the cheek, and they will like go like this and walk together, even hold hands. But as we grew up, like teenagers or early 20s, the understanding of the gay movement or those things started coming in to our knowledge, and then men started being more awkward being that friendly with other men. So I think now men has lost that touch as well with other men to connect and to express, and that's just making men more and more lonely, because we all now know that we need physical touch.
Yeah, I think just listening to what you're noticing and what I'm sharing with you as well, I think there's definitely, to me at least, it feels like men are the missing piece. When we finally get the men right, I think our society is pretty good, because we are coming a long way. The fact that we do have, we can talk about being gay and all that sort of stuff without shame. I think we're heading in the right direction, but I'd love to see men better coordinated, more open and more aware of who they are. And I think that goes to both sides when we're talking about divorce, men and women, understand who the individual is in the marriage on both sides. But definitely it raises to me what you've been sharing and what we've been talking about, that men have a long way to come to catch up.
Absolutely. I think we did a lot of damage somewhere along the line. And I don't know.
I think we can blame, like the pendulum swings, and I think men need to take responsibility for when it swung too far the other way in our history. And it's coming back the other way now, which I'm glad to see. Women are being respected and acknowledged and everything, but we've forgotten to bring the men along with us. So like we feel guilty about what we've done in the past, so we don't deserve anything in the future, which is not good for our kids.
Yeah.
We need to make it equitable. So this is a great conversation, Rebecca. I really love
Thank you.
your
Thank you,
topic and what you're
David.
doing.
Yeah, and I hope more and more men talk about it, voice it, and even women. Why not? You know, there are women who do realize that this is happening and this is injustice. It's not about men and women. It's about justice.
I agree. I wouldn't like to see it become a man issue or a woman's issue.
Exactly.
It's
Yes.
it's everybody's issue. We're all
Human
connected.
issues.
That's what I'm saying. We need to remember who we are and where we come from.
Mm.
We are all connected. None of us is better and none of us is worse than each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
We need to figure out how to do it together.
I agree. I agree. All right. So let's move on to the next question. Some of the key lessons you learned about yourself, about your strength during this difficult time while you were going through the divorce, and then later on as you found yourself and your journey. What did you learn?
I am grateful for everything I've been through. I don't like the hurt that it caused my children or my ex-wife and I. But there was a lot to learn. And I have learned an amazing look. I would not be the man I am today. I would be living a small life in comparison that I believed I deserved, which I had learned to become content with. But all through that horrible time and experiences that I went through, I was waiting for someone to go, hey, this is wrong, and stand up for me. And I didn't do it for myself. I was waiting. I didn't know how to have my voice. I didn't know. I was relying on what I'd been taught growing up. And because I've been taught it, it wasn't intrinsic to me. So I couldn't express it when I needed. And I found that I didn't have an opinion. I didn't have an idea. I didn't know what to do when my training didn't cover, the manual didn't cover it, right?
Yeah.
So what I learned was I threw, in the end, every time I tried to rebuild what I'd lost, the universe had come and kick it a lot out of shape again. And it's go, no, you're not rebuilding it, which frustrated me a lot. But in the end, I learned that I had to recreate myself. So I challenged everything I believed in. And I tried to prove what I was going to believe in going forwards. And I've had fun, so much fun. I got addicted to learning and I can't stop. And even to this day, I think I was sharing with you just before we started this chat, I got inspired last night. Instead of going to sleep, my mind started coming out with some amazing ideas. So I got up till 1:30 in the morning. I was writing them all down and I slept in this morning because I could. I love my life. Like I'm learning so much about human behavior, who I am, what I need to know. And I'm sharing that with other men, which, not just men. At the moment, I'm working with men and women. And I'm loving the results that people are getting. People just don't know this stuff. We're brought up to learn a certain amount to get us through life. And it's sort of like as our parents pass away and we become responsible adults ourselves, it's sort of like what we were taught, it's got a use by date and it's up. And all of a sudden we find ourselves in this position where we've got to start making ideas and making difficult decisions and moving our way forwards. And I find that a lot of us have just got no preparation for that. We all know what we don't want far more than we know what we do want. We're dealing with the mess, and the more we focus on it, the more we get it. And just we're losing our way. So what I've learned about myself is how to value who I am, where I come from, and how I can help other people. Like I am just living the most amazing life now. I finally feel like I'm living all I can be. I must be what I can be, and that's my mantra. And I'm not trying to be that person. I'm just growing into it.
Beautiful.
I can't stop growing or learning. So I've learned that I am equal. Before that, I believed I wasn't. But if I obeyed all the law, I will be accepted. All the things that I've been taught, my beliefs, I believed if I did that to the best that I could, I'd be accepted and loved, and I would be all I can be that way. But that was no comparison to what I feel I can be right now. All I can be now is, it's really funny, Rebecca. I learned that the more I try to be successful or do something in life, the more it means I'm on the wrong path. I found that the secret is love what you do, love who you're with. Or if you don't love what you do, do what you love. If you don't do what you love what you do, because it'll get you what you love in the long run anyway. But learn to value and appreciate everything. If something's hard, it means that you're on the wrong track, because what you love yourself, what you're trying to achieve in life, is enjoyable. It's all about loving people, getting along with people, having fun doing what you're doing, and success follows you. Success is so ridiculously easy. I never got taught that. Don't put up with things, and don't try and be someone you're not. So I've just learned a lot of gratitude.
Yes, gratitude is the word. Yeah, that was coming up again and again when you were mentioning this. So what would you say is the greatest gift, and what are you proud of through this journey?
The greatest gift is I've been not just given a life, I've been given a way to contribute. And that's an honor to me. It's sort of like, that's all I ever wanted to do, was be someone. I wanted to be significant in life. I wanted to make a difference. And now I believe I've been given that. But I had to earn it. I had to find out who I was and accept that. It wasn't just going to be given to me because I wanted it. I had to learn who I was and how people work. And I love that. That's my greatest gift. What was the second part of the question? Sorry.
And what are you proud of? So the gift in the divorce, what was the gift in the divorce for you? And what are you proud of?
The gift in the divorce itself was I separated myself because I needed my wife. I married someone and we were made two halves. We were two halves of a whole. So when I divorced, it was sort of like I'd had an amputation. And again, I was a zombie during that period of time. But I learned that I wasn't an amputee. I was actually myself, and I needed to learn who I was. That's the greatest gift, is learning who I am, but also where I come from. And yeah.
When you say where I come from, what do you mean, if you could elaborate?
Well, I look at life, if you look at this planet,
like the source of
hundreds of thousands of light years, not years, light years in every direction. We can't see life anywhere else. It's peculiar to our planet. And I think that is God to me. Life is God. Whatever you want to call it, it's there, and it's intangible. It's energy. Energy can't be destroyed or created. So we know we come from nothing, from this intangible force of life that surrounds our planet. And then we're put in physical form. And then when we die, we go back to the form we were before, that we don't know what it is until it happens to us, I think. But it's sort of like this amazing gift, like we're life. And that's who I think I am. I've got part of that life in me. It's been poured into a physical body. So I think I need to remember that I'm part of this life force that everybody else on this planet is also a part of. So remembering who I am and where I come from is super important, because it's sort of like, then if I'm challenged by someone, I'm being challenged by my own self to help me figure out more about myself. And it's really brought me a long way, because I used to be judgmental. Having a religious upbringing, I thought there was a right and a wrong, a good and a bad. And so I'd have my position. I'd judge people I thought were not as good as me but I'd also put myself in a pit, believing so many other people were better than me, because we were taught to believe that we're evil and all this sort of stuff. And I just now think that our default state is we're good. We just don't realize it. And we need to help people express their goodness in better ways.
And that's the belief Muslims hold as well, that their innate quality is good. They're born with purity, and even born with the understanding and knowledge of their creator that they're connected to. And we are here for a purpose, to serve and,
that's
serve.
Beautiful. It's a much...
And
it's a much better position than being ashamed of yourself, thinking that you're evil and you need to seek forgiveness all the time. That's how I was brought up. Yeah,
we do seek forgiveness for our shortcomings and ask help to be better all the time. And that's where I think our growth and struggle is. It's not about how I can change the other person. It's about me, how I can change myself all the time and be better. And as you said, we're gonna see the higher power, or what you mentioned something about this when we pass away. And same belief, like we're gonna go and we're going to be held accountable for whatever gift we've been given, the life, the time, the energy, the knowledge, and what did we do with it? Did we serve the creation, properly with the best intent, or were we there for ourselves,
I think we're exactly, I agree with you. I think we are going to be held responsible for the conscious part, the part that we're consciously able to, it's our responsibility to do. And that's to be all we can be. That's my mantra, that I must be all I can be.
Yes,
because that's at the end is going to make the difference, is whether I'm going to regret the life I've lived or be satisfied.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's the belief, the conscious, the person who is not sane or doesn't have the capability, they wouldn't be tested the way we'll be tested, as in, or asked for about our
in the Christian belief. There was a parable I remember being taught at Sunday school. And there were three people given, one was given 1 talent, one was given 3, I think, and one was given 5 or something.
Yeah.
And the one who was given 1 was worried he only had 1, so he buried it, because he knew the person who gave him the talent would want it back one day. And so he was terrified of losing it and buried it. But the one who had 3 went and invested it and earned another 3 shekels of silver or something.
Yeah.
And the one with 5 invested it and worked with it and made 5. When the master came back, he took the silver from the one who buried it and gave it to the one who had 5. And they said, why did you take from the one? And he said, well, he did nothing with it. And in the future, that those who have nothing, even that will be taken away from them, given to those who've done something with what they were given.
Yeah.
So it was like being held accountable to fully express who you are, the gift that you were born to give, to be you.
Yeah.
Stop trying to be someone else and just relax. And it should be easy and fun, and you should love your life being you.
That's a beautiful story.
You multiply that, and you will be feeling like you've had a satisfactory life at the end, that you've grown your gift yourself. You've stopped trying to be like other people. And
there is a similar story. It's not a religious story, but somebody told me this story, and I totally going to ruin this story, but I love it so much. I heard it once. I remember bits and pieces, but I don't even remember who told it to me, so that I can go and refresh the memory. Something like very similar of that nature of the story you mentioned, but with gratitude. One person is like really grateful to God and always praises God for whatever small things God has gifted him with, and God blesses him with more and more. And this other guy, he's been poor and he's miserable, and he keeps cursing, and he, like, everything is negative, and he doesn't have this, and he doesn't, always complaining, and he finds himself in the middle of stuck in the middle of the desert. And then he only has a little piece of cloth to cover his privates, and he doesn't have anything else. That's his condition, and he blames everybody for that, and ungrateful, and and then while he's whinging and whining that, God, you did this and whatnot, you made me poor because of you, or whatever, and then a wind comes and blows even that piece of cloth away. So that reminds me, like how you said, the gratitude. And when we don't have gratitude, and when we are always stuck in the complaining and all the negative that's happening to us, then God will not help us grow. God will not give us more. As you said, when you invest, God will give more of that.
Yeah. I tend to think that God doesn't necessarily give us anything.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he's made us totally capable. We're in this amazing body with this amazing spirit, force, will, and so much teaching at our hand, even in our phone nowadays. We've got so much we can look up. I believe we've been given it all, the people around us to connect with, but we isolate ourselves, and we believe we can't, and we bury our shekel of silver in the sand and all that. Because I think he gave it all, and he expects us to use it. And that's why we find life so hard, waiting or praying for something else to make our life something for us, which is what I was getting to, that I was doing in my life. The gift I was given was learning to get out and use my life myself, take responsibility for it, stop praying for someone to come and help me, and just get over it and get on with it.
And
Yeah.
I don't think it is mutually exclusive, as you mentioned that you don't believe it and I believe it, and I see a link between the two. Like when we put the effort, then God blesses us with more. And when we don't put the effort and just ask for it, it's like, the secret. You keep manifesting, but if you don't put if you don't put the action, then there is no manifesting, basically. So it's like you think good thoughts and then put the effort, and then things starts aligning. I
Yeah.
think that's how it's connected, but that's another story, and we can
That,
always connect over
it's such
that.
a rich topic, what you've
Yes,
brought
it
up.
is,
There's
it
so
is.
much we could talk volumes about that. It's taking
That's
me in so
right,
many
that's
different
right.
directions.
Yeah, exactly. So we are coming towards the end. So I'm going to ask you about how did you, or if you have gone through a healing process, how did you recover and, taking it forward in your next relationship, or how much do you think healing is needed for a man or a woman before they move into next relationship?
I rushed around when I was coming out of being a zombie. Like I said, I felt like I'd been amputated, and I rushed around looking for another part to
Mhm.
stick on me to make me whole again, which
Mhm.
was just a mistake because I just found someone who had also been broken from a broken family, lost her kids, etc. And we made a whole, but because we were both hurt, we weren't able to be there for each other in the ways we needed. And after 10 years,
Mhm.
decided that even though we loved each other, we separated as well,
Mhm.
just because we weren't growing. We were
Mhm.
just protecting our own hurt. I think healing takes its own course at its own time.
Mhm.
What I've noticed in life, with myself and the people I coach, is healing. Leave it go, acknowledge it, let it be, do what you can.
Mhm.
Don't dwell on it. Don't try and get over it first or anything. I think growth is the biggest healer. And as
Yeah.
soon as you step towards yourself, take responsibility for who you are, do something towards what you want, figure out what you want,
Mhm.
take those little steps each day. That is going to just nuclear power your
Mhm.
healing process, because I
That's
think
right.
that's when healing just takes care of itself and you feel so good. But when you're trying to heal, again, that word
Yeah.
trying comes up.
Yeah.
I think you just dwell in the pain and you find more to be to feel painful about.
Mhm. Yeah, I think a lot of us now understand or somehow relate the word healing to sitting down meditating, but I think we are aligning here that healing is basically growth. So as you
Mm.
go into your growth journey, healing just automatically happens.
You look at a tree when there's a branch breaks off and tears the bark and there's a big open wound on the trunk. It heals it by growing. More
Mm.
bark grows over the top. I think
Mm.
growth and movement and action
Mm.
always provide answers and satisfaction, and it works our physical body so that our lymphatic system is working and
Mm.
we feel good and
Mm.
we naturally get better. I think we have to love ourselves to heal.
Mm.
And
Mm.
if we feel like we're unloved and we haven't learned how to grow and into
Mm.
who we are, we're
Yes.
going to feel like we're not loved, and the pain is going to continue in one way, shape, or form to remind us that we need to grow and love ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, when we are talking about growth, what are we actually talking about? And Steve, you just slightly mentioned on those topics. So if you could go a little bit on those, what is growth?
For me, growth was taking responsibility for who I am
Mm-hmm.
and having the discipline to get what I want. I used to think discipline was denying myself what I wanted, and my
Mm-hmm.
life went even worse when I tried to give myself 100% freedom, because I had no direction then. And I learned that discipline is helping you get what you want most.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to take responsibility to be the one to go, well, it's up to me as well. Stop being a victim. Stop blaming other people.
Mm-hmm.
Stop waiting for a hero to gallop in and rescue you,
Mm-hmm.
and figure out anything that you can do. One step in the right direction to me is growth. And growth is to be enjoyed. It's to be loved and embraced and just feel grateful for every day you wake up and go, what's one thing I can do today? If you're
Mm-hmm.
doing one thing for you every day, whether it's learning or something for someone else, whatever, you're going to feel fantastic. If you
Mm-hmm.
get up and you go, I'm I need healing. I can't do anything. I'm a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Sit there and you don't do something for yourself or other people, you're going to feel like you need more healing.
Mm-hmm.
Growth to me is anything that helps you discover who you are and
Mm-hmm.
taking action to do it, to
Mm.
be it.
And you earlier mentioned, you did mention this word, but when you were talking, that is what you were actually describing is self-actualization.
Mm.
What I'm doing, who I'm doing it with, I'm enjoying, I'm learning about myself, I'm giving more. And, even when we talk about self-love and loving ourselves more, many people might think that loving ourselves is selfish, we should love others. And other group might think uh, loving ourselves at the expense of somebody else, or taking advantage of somebody else and putting it in use for us, like being what's the word, like cheating,
Mm.
cheating somebody else and doing it for us. That's not what we are talking about loving
Well,
ourselves, right?
funny, but I think a lot of us, I was brought up to believe that loving yourself is selfish, that you need to be self-sacrificing and give
That's right.
yourself, for your
Yes.
kids, make sure they get what you didn't have. And what you're really doing is giving them the example that when they're a parent, they have to give all of themselves and put themselves last as well.
Yeah.
So you've got all these people not self-actualizing, living in
No.
misery, but thinking, oh, take one for the family, you go on without
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And it's totally wrong, because what we're talking about here is our ability to love ourselves is first and foremost. How dare any of us expect somebody else to love us as much as we wish they would when we can't
Mm.
love ourselves?
That's
And
right.
by loving ourselves, I mean understand who we are, own all of it, the good, the
Mm.
bad, the ugly, everything, and realize that we're equally as good as the
Mm-hmm.
person we admire most, and we're equally as bad as the person we despise most, and
Mm.
get over it.
Mm.
And love who we are, and then work with the responsibility to bring the best out of ourselves.
Exactly. Because when we talk about loving ourselves, a lot of men might think this is fluff. This is, what is this mushy talk?
Totally
Loving
misunderstood.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Totally misunderstood. It's actually loving yourselves means you love yourself so much. You are self-disciplined. You are consistent. You are learning. You are growing.
And
Being
it's
your
so
best self.
easy, Rebecca.
Yeah.
We make life so complicated. We think it
Yeah.
has to be hard to be successful. That's what I was saying. I learned that it's ridiculously easy to be successful, and you should love doing it. You should be having fun.
Mm.
And it is when you learn to find out who you are, have fun with that,
Mm.
own the parts of you that you've been trying to cover and hide,
Yeah.
put it out there,
Express your needs. Ask
be
for.
all who you
Yeah.
can be,
Yeah.
and then work with how you can get even more out of who you are, and just love the process. That's what I'm learning. It's we have been brought or conditioned or trained or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
especially here in Australia. I don't know overseas. I haven't lived there, but I know that we've living such small lives and hard lives.
Mm.
And I think it was David Thoreau said that men live lives of quiet desperation
Mm-hmm.
more often than anything else. And I
Yeah.
find that true, that we've been taught that that's what we're meant to do. And it means that we belong to this nation, but a lot of different things in this country own us because we're dependent on them because we're not happy. And we
Mm.
think that that will provide us happiness. We're not taking responsibility for who we are and
Mm-hmm.
realizing that happiness, you could wake up happy tomorrow if you can get your mindset around who am I and how can I have fun with my life?
Yeah, how can I grow, be better, and at the same time as I be better, I can give more
I'll tell you what, the
and
results
realize
go
that.
through the roof. It's like nothing goes wrong. All of a sudden, good luck just falls your way.
Mm.
And things that you never noticed before become apparent. Your reticular activating system starts working full time for you. It's just so much fun. I love sharing this with people and seeing the people on the journey. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the last question is, what is your advice? Actually, no, second last question. If somebody is going through divorce right now or thinking of it, what do you think they should consider, or what are the criteria for them to make that decision? Should I stay? Should I go?
I think that's a good question, but I think it's going to be different for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I would be, knowing what I know now, I would be protecting myself. If I felt that I couldn't be myself in a relationship and the other person was stopping me, and they weren't talking to me about it, I couldn't have a communication about, well, this is causing me trouble. How can you help me through this? How can we change? If they're not prepared to work with you and they're stopping your growth, I'd say that that's reason to go, wow, this is not going to go anywhere. It's only going to get worse. I need to remove myself from here while I figure out who I am. Maybe I can help from outside and get back in once I've figured out who I am. I would say separate or divorce or whatever to protect who you are. That's your number one responsibility. When God made you alive, that's your responsibility to look after this amazing, it's not a machine, but who we are as people is just the most incredible thing in the whole universe. We've been given a responsibility to something that awesome. We've got to look after it. No one else is. Yeah. So we're not to abuse ourselves to look after other people first. We need to honor that, be who we are. And that might require you to leave so you can do it. So you can come back when you learn how to drive the thing properly. And maybe you can fix the relationship up from that angle. But if you can't be yourself, you can't grow and you can't talk about it, I'd say that you're on a hiding to nothing to stay, and you'll leave a really poor example to your children or your spouse, that marriage is unhappiness, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah. And what's the quote that says, we are either green and growing or
ripe and rotting.
So if the growth is not there, it is a big indication that it's probably gonna rot. Yes. And probably it's best to leave unless both the parties are ready to grow together and work on themselves.
And that's another good point you bring up there, that quote. I love that one, green and growing or ripe and rotting. It's again, I reflect on my past life, the one pre-divorce, where I was planning to ripen and rot. Retirement is sort of like my chance to stop and just lay there and look after myself. And that's what you keep putting everything off for, thinking that one day I'll retire and I'll play golf or I'll just do nothing. But when you're not serving other people, you will ripen and you will rot very quickly. As opposed to where I am now, I'm going to love growing for the rest of my life and helping more and more people as I can. And I would never have been given that if I hadn't gotten divorced. There is life after divorce.
What a beautiful gift. What a beautiful gift divorce can give us. Divorce is not always the solution, but sometimes it's the best.
Yeah, and I wouldn't guarantee that that's the outcome for everybody, but the moral of the story under that is you need to find out who you are.
Yeah.
And then you'll figure out whether you can handle a divorce or whether you need to divorce and all of that. Divorce is not the issue. I think you not knowing who you are and having control of your life is the issue.
Absolutely. So our concluding question for the viewers is, for you to serve the viewers, is if somebody is going through divorce, what optimistic thing you would share with them, or what advice you would share with them to give them courage and give them hope?
Yeah, I would say that what's happening to you is you're feeling all the effects of things going wrong. There is no failure here, but you're being shown the pain of things not going the best that they could if you're in control. And the pain is there to force you to take action somewhere. You're not going to jump out of a fire until it starts to burn you. And divorce is being burnt slowly, being roasted. So the hotter it gets, I would say, don't fight it and try and put the fire out. Realize that you're on fire and realize that you need to move out of the fire and put yourself out. And then you need to find out who you are, that this is God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. I'll call it God for that because of our conversation. I feel comfortable to say that. It's God helping you feel the pain so you'll do something about it. And one day you'll be grateful for it. So don't make any rash decisions. Don't do anything dumb. Don't change your life or end your life randomly. Put some thought into it. What do you believe? What do you believe and why do you believe it? And if it gets back to that's what you are taught, go and find out for yourself what you really believe and what your choices are. What do you really want in life? Stop thinking about what you don't like and get very specific with what you do, and just try and put yourself on the path of growth. And let everything else follow along behind you. Everything will start going your way when you honor yourself, take responsibility for who you are, and discipline yourself to get what you want most once you figure out what that is. So I'd say not enjoy the process because you'll be in pain, but understand that it is for your good and it will help you get to where you need to be.
Yeah. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. It is the life, or the God is testing you to make you stronger. It's not even testing, I would say, to make you stronger. Find yourself through this pain, and as you come out, you see who you are and
appreciate the pain. Yeah, because another thing I learned is I always thought that we're always meant to be seeking the lack of pain, enjoyment, pleasure, but we need to embrace that life is both pleasure and challenge, and not look at challenge as something that you want to push away like an emotion. But because we need to accept emotions, we also need to accept challenge. We grow best when we've got the right amount of challenge and support happening at the same time. So anything that's hurting you, realize it's transient, but it's there to help you grow. Like even the trees need the wind to shake them so that they'll suck the water up out of the ground, because that suction doesn't happen unless the tree's moving, being blown around. So you're getting blown around at the moment, realize it's for your good. It's a natural force. And hopefully you'll be taught that you are enough to withstand it and you grow under the challenge rather than snap.
Yeah.
So allow yourself to trust the process and work for your good.
Absolutely. And nobody will be there to rescue you. You have to rescue yourself. And you are strong enough to rescue yourself. When you come out of it, when you look back, you will see you had it all in you to go through.
And you are better able to rescue yourself than anybody else. Anybody else will rescue you in their way, and ultimately it won't bring the best out in you. This is what is going to make you who you are. Nice.
Thank you so much, Steve, for your time. It has been a pleasure having you here, and thank you for being here for us, sharing your vulnerable moments, sharing your story, and letting people in this part of your life where they can actually take away a lot of value and implement in their lives, hopefully.
So thanks, Rebecca. Thank you for asking me here too. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you. And the feeling is mutual. So I'm going to end it for the viewers now. Thank you for listening to us. Tune in for another one soon, and I'll see you. May the Almighty Creator of the heavens and the earth and beyond accept this effort from us, and may He make it beneficial for generations to come, and for you and for me.